I am Captain Joseph N. Flint of the 1st New York Dragoons, and I had the honor of serving under a man whose name deserves to be spoken plainly and remembered properly, General Alfred Gibbs. History often celebrates the loudest men, the most theatrical, the ones who chase headlines. Alfred Gibbs was not that kind of officer. He was something rarer. He was steady. He was disciplined. He was professional in the deepest sense of the word. He was born in 1823 on Long Island into a family already woven into the fabric of the Republic. His grandfather, Oliver Wolcott, signed the Declaration of Independence. Duty was not a slogan in his household. It was inheritance. He attended school in White Plains, spent time at Dartmouth, and then entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. He graduated in the storied class of 1846, the class that would produce an extraordinary number of officers who would later command on both sides of the Civil War. But graduation alone does not make a soldier. What shapes a man is what comes next. For Gibbs, that shaping began in Mexico. As a young officer in the Regiment of Mounted Rifles during the Mexican-American War, he learned the realities of campaign life, hard marches, broken terrain, uncertainty, and sudden violence. He was wounded in that war. He learned firsthand that mobility wins battles, that reconnaissance saves lives, and that discipline is what keeps men standing when confusion tries to pull them apart. Those lessons did not fade. He carried them forward. After Mexico came the frontier. Service there was not glorious. It was relentless. In 1857, near Cooke's Spring, he led a small detachment in pursuit of Apache raiders who had stolen horses. Frontier warfare was not grand maneuver. It was pursuit, dust, close quarters, and decisions made in seconds. Gibbs was wounded again in that clash. He survived, and he returned to duty. By the time the Civil War erupted, Alfred Gibbs was no amateur officer. He was a hardened professional. He was appointed colonel of the 130th New York, which soon became the 1st New York Dragoons. We began as infantry. We became cavalry. That transformation was not cosmetic. It required retraining, discipline, and a commander who understood both worlds. Gibbs did. He demanded order. He demanded readiness. He demanded that we think before we acted and act without hesitation once the decision was made. At the Battle of Deserted House in January 1863, his steadiness proved its worth. In the cold and confusion of that engagement, his insistence on positioning and discipline helped secure Union control in a vital region of Virginia. There was no theatrical charge, no reckless display. There was control, and control wins wars more often than spectacle. As the war ground on, he rose to brigade command in the Cavalry Corps of the Army of the Potomac. By then, the fighting had become faster, harsher, and less forgiving. Cavalry operations demanded mobility and independent judgment. Gibbs excelled at both. At Five Forks in April of 1865, one of the decisive battles that hastened the fall of the Confederacy, Union lines were under immense pressure. Reinforcements were needed. Not eventually, but immediately. Gibbs responded. He moved his brigade forward and stabilized the line. His calm decisiveness in that moment contributed to the breakthrough that shattered the Confederate position and accelerated the final collapse toward Appomattox. He did not shout. He did not dramatize. He acted. Those of us who served under him understood something important. He respected the profession of arms. He trained his men. He prepared them. He believed that competence was a moral responsibility. Many of the soldiers in our ranks were farmers, laborers, clerks, ordinary men placed in extraordinary circumstances. Gibbs did not condescend to them. He forged them into cavalry. After the war, he accepted a commission as major in the newly formed 7th U.S. Cavalry in 1866. The Army was being reorganized, and the nation was shifting from civil conflict back to frontier enforcement. Gibbs continued his service in Kansas, including at Fort Riley and Fort Leavenworth. The work was less celebrated, but no less demanding. In December of 1868, the Army lost him suddenly. He died at Fort Leavenworth at only 45 years of age. The cause was described as apoplexy, what we would now recognize as a catastrophic stroke. A life of hard campaigning and relentless responsibility had come to an abrupt end. He did not live to see his name attached to legend. He did not live to see how his regiment would later be remembered. But those of us who knew him did not require legend. We knew his worth. His legacy extended beyond his own service. His son, Dr. John Blair Gibbs, would later serve in the Spanish-American War and become the first American killed in combat during that conflict. Service in that family did not end with one generation. General Alfred Gibbs represents something vital in American military history, the professional soldier who bridges eras. He stood between the early republic and the modern army. He served in Mexico on the frontier and through the crucible of civil war. He embodied discipline, courage, and integrity without seeking applause. When I speak his name, I do not speak it as a distant historical figure. I speak it as a commander whose example shaped the men beneath him. He was not the loudest officer in the army. He was something better. He was a soldier's soldier.